Good morning. I'm Dave Camp Schulte, and I am here as part of the Veterans Interview History Project, and I'm in Muskegon, Michigan, interviewing Darell Hansen.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Darell, welcome. Glad to see you here. Tell me a little bit. Where were you born? And
I was born here in Muskegon, just down the road. I grew up in Orchard View. Back born in '57. Oh, I'm showing my age.
Wow. Well,
but then I stayed in Muskegon until I joined the Army in '75, and never really came back until just last couple years ago.
Wow. You've been in the Army all that time?
Well, I did the Army just over 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ended up working for Home Depot and Lowe's in Georgia. I spent a lot of time in North Georgia, just north of Atlanta.
Okay.
And then finally in 2019, it was time to come home. I completely retired, and now I just do volunteer stuff. That's where I stay busy. I umpire. I take veterans to medical facilities or wherever they need to go. Food pantry, whatever I stay busy with, I try to.
You're a guy who needs to stay busy, I can tell right now.
Well,
yeah.
I don't have a TV in my house. I don't have a pet. The reason being is I spend so much time doing things that the phone bill would get too high and I wouldn't be watching it, and the animal would die because I wouldn't be there to feed it.
Right. Yeah.
So I live in the country, live it in Rothbury, and it's a great deal. I'm able to do what I want.
That makes a big difference, doesn't it?
Yes.
That's the difference between working and being retired. You get to do it when you want and what you want.
Yes, and I still travel quite a bit. I've got trips to Washington, D.C. come up, and Atlanta, and I mean, I'm on the go. I don't like staying home.
Good. Well, looking back, what propelled you to get into the service in the first place?
My father, he was a POW during World War II. First day of the Battle of Bulge, that's why you see some of his stuff right here. And my father was my hero, my best friend, my mentor. Everything you can say about a father, he was.
Wow.
But we were strictly middle class, so he was the only worker in the household. My mom would stay at home. And that's why I joined, because of him. Ended up having 17 relatives in the service. I was the only careerist, not lifer. Too many people think that military people who stay 20 years are lifers. I had something I could do besides the military. But I'd do it all over again. I mean, if they let old guys like me with a stomach still be in, I would be.
I could tell from your hat you were in the Army.
Yes.
And at the time, was there a choice in your mind between Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air?
I can't swim, but I love the water. Lake Michigan, when I'm near the ocean, I deep sea fish and all that kinds of stuff. So, but I couldn't swim, so the Navy was out. Air Force, I was never on a plane before, so I thought, ooh, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Marines, I love their song. Marine Corps hymn is the best song.
That is a good song.
The Army song is not the best, but the Marine Corps hymn. Coast Guard, I wanted to travel, and I didn't realize at the time, but Coast Guard is overseas as well. They were involved in the Gulf War, and
I did not know that.
Yes, they're involved in a lot of places people don't realize. Okay. So the Army was what I thought, but then I tried to do different jobs or sign up, and finally they said supply. And they said, you need to talk. And I thought, I'm a shy person, because I grew up shy.
Darell, shyness isn't one of the adjectives I would use to describe you.
Back when I was growing up, I mean, I took theater arts across the street here at Orchard View, and the teacher said, well, Darell, you need to start talking. And I liked being a character. That way I wasn't Darell. I was Baldy Red in a play called Mrs. Mike and different things.
Yeah.
So that was not Darell in my mind. And I haven't shut up since. So when I see doctors and stuff, because I'm 100% disabled, my biggest thing is I can't lose my voice. And that's why I don't have it with me now, but I'm always carrying a notepad using, writing things down.
Okay.
I've learned about this event. This event's going to be on the American Legion website and other stuff by the time the night's over with. Because my father did this kind of interview up in Washington, D.C. a number of years ago before he passed. But we've never been able to see that interview because of whatever reason. So when I got the call from Don Cook, I said, well, let me see.
Okay, and so you're here today.
So I'm here today.
We're glad you are. Well, going back, so this is going back a while for you. What was your memories of basic training?
I had family members, not my father, but other members say, you're not going to make it. because I was like a weak, mild, quiet person. And when I got to basic, which was Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, that's when they could cuss you and hit you and
do
all the
everything.
typical stuff you see on the movies. Now they can't do none of that. And I thought, I can't quit. Well, I was doing you know what the horizontal ladder is, the bars, parallel bars?
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't do it, and I couldn't do it. And I thought if I don't do it, I'm gonna be put out of basic. Well, finally I made it, and so when I came home from basic, I kind of looked at people like, see, I did it. And that motivated me, but my dad was always somebody I looked up to. He was never a talker like me. I get that from my mother. But my father was always middle class, worked for the phone company, General Telephone. So if you've been around here for a while, you know General Telephone. And it just, I tried to follow his footsteps. I can't be as good as him because I have my own attitude that, you know, you don't want to be that way. So it hurt my career at times. It hurts me some days even now. Because if I don't like you, well, in the way you're going to find out. But if I do like you, I mean, it's like I volunteer for the veterans group up in Hart, taking veterans to medical places and stuff. And it's time to give back. I umpire. I'm a volunteer Santa Claus for veterans groups.
You got the body build for it. Do they have the beard?
Body,
Yeah.
But the beard had to be cut because last October I started having heartburn. Well, finally I went to a heart doctor and they said, well, you got to take a look at you. Well, make a long story short, and I don't make stories short very often, ended up having a triple bypass done recently. And the first thing they told me before I had it is I had to cut this down. And I thought, surgery or cut my beard? Let me think about this. Do I really have to? So I had to cut it down about 4 inches because there's the tip of the scar. They cut me open like a doggone turkey, as I call it. But I'm getting to where I want to be. I can't ump this year. I ump the kids. And giving back to kids is important to me. And
because
it's very important for me to ump. Because the kids are tomorrow's future. Okay? Because it's just so important, same way we're taking vets. Because I know eventually I'm going to be a vet that has to have that ride. So why not take these veterans, and I've seen a couple in the other room. The stories they have, I have nothing compared to them, I'm sure. Whether they did 4 years in Vietnam or whatever, I'm small potatoes.
Yeah. So when you were looking back, did your dad, being in the service, did he have any words of wisdom that he gave to you when you went in? Or
he said, don't volunteer. Which I didn't listen. I ended up doing KP more than I thought I would, which is peeling potatoes.
Yeah.
Now they don't have that stuff. But he said, just be who you are. And even now, when I talk about my dad, it gets, my body kind of tingles. You know, because he was an honorable man. He became a POW for 6 months, living on grass soup and stuff. And so I've always tried to be in his steps. But I can't, you know, because I'm just who I am. But he was always there. When I was in Iraq and other places, he always wrote letters of encouragement, and, you know, and he didn't try to get any claim from the government, even though he was a POW for 6 months. But finally, the last few years of his life, he got disability because being a POW, living on grass soup and tree bark for coffee and being starved, you know, it's all about giving back. And the veterans who came before me, and even the ones that are following me, that's what it's all about.
it's a community.
It's a community. We have our own special language. When I walk up to a person or see them, are they wearing a veteran's hat? Are they wearing an American flag? And I just have a habit of, where do you serve? Or talk our language, you know, rah, rah, rah. You know. So that's who I am.
Okay. After basic training, where did you go?
Fort Jackson, South Carolina, which is Columbia. I did supply training there. And did that for like 2 months, and then was able to come home for the first time. And seeing Muskegon for the first time in 3 months or 4 months, I was happy to come home.
Yeah.
I was happy to come home. But it was all good. I mean, I did logistics, you know, teaching how to supply people and stuff like that. And, you know, I got my voice, you might say, going. And I haven't shut up since.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure in that particular job, I mean, you got to be the one organizing all this stuff and telling people what to do.
if you ever watched a TV show called MASH,
Mhm.
which is my favorite show of all time, because I was in that general area fictionally in Korea, I was like Radar or Klinger.
Mhm.
You call me up or you come and say, I need a bottle of water. Okay. I said, what you got to trade for it? Well, I've got an ink pen. And since I see her writing, in Korea in the 70s, ink pens were hard to come by. The U.S. government skillcraft, they're black and stuff, okay? So anytime I went into an office to do paperwork or whatever, I'd kind of take that pen, take it back to my unit. So I learned how to trade, bargain, coffee for this or whatever.
Mhm.
And I still do that now. When people call me up with Darell, such and such, well, I seen you got this, let's see if we can help each other out. And just now
Yeah.
it's inbred in me.
But that's what you see a lot in the movies is constant trading
Yes.
back and forth.
And it's not
and
the value-
I can make it happen for you.
Yes, it's not the idea of the value of the stuff.
Right. It's the deal.
It's like you can't get water. It's like during the Gulf War, my guys wanted pictures of themselves. So I was able to get remember the old Polaroid where the film came out the
Yeah,
front? Okay.
yeah.
Well, I sent home, and my wife at the time sent me that camera with plenty of film. So when I'm on the supply road, I tap at units and I say, you want your picture taken? Because that was before cell phones and all this other stuff. And they said, yeah. And I said, well, I'm looking for this. Yeah, I got that. I said, how about if I take a picture? And you trade a picture, which is nothing to me,
Yeah.
for laser rangefinders or whatever.
Right.
And that was the fun, because they wanted a picture for their wives or mom and dad. My soldiers need something. And that's how you made the trade. And I've done that. Yeah, it's still inbred in me.
Mhm.
You know.
So after Fort Jackson, when you came back here, then were you assigned somewhere else?
No, I was assigned to Hunter Army Airfield, which is in Savannah.
Okay.
Fort Stewart was in Savannah area. They closed it down for a number of years because of just the way things were. So I was there when they first started opening it up, basically. And I was stationed right in Savannah. For a single man who didn't have a car, you walk out the gate from here to your door behind you, you're downtown Savannah.
Wow.
So it was good.
Mhm.
And it was an intelligence unit, and I got to do what I wanted. My first job was supply. I was a supply clerk, and I never, it's been good. I'm glad I choose the field.
Yeah. And you're the person everybody has to go to.
Yes,
You think it's the captain, but it's the supply clerk who makes the place run.
It's like on a baseball team, who's the two main players that always have the ball?
Yeah.
The catcher and the pitcher. Okay?
Mhm.
Because I do a lot of baseball stuff. My house is considered a museum amongst my family. If you look in that wagon behind us, there's a baseball that I got in Haiti, because Haiti was the only producer of baseball back in the 90s.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I'll show you the baseball afterwards.
Okay.
And so my house is sports related. My military stuff is what you see here and some other thing, because that's a different life. Too many people try to live the military over and over and over. It's like if you go into the legions and other veterans groups, years ago they were smoke-filled, drinking war stories.
Mm-hmm.
I won't tell you a war story. This is the most I've talked about military forever, okay? But it's not about that. It's about taking care of the individual. It's about using the VA, because you have a VA just down here on Apple Avenue,
Mm-hmm.
okay, which is a new one. It's about getting the veterans the help. They don't need money per se. All they need is a helping hand, okay? And too many veterans have got issues about the VA. I'm a VA cheerleader, but you don't want to see me in shorts, okay? That's not. No, when they did my heart surgery, they took a vein on my left leg and stuff. Not pretty. Not for the meek and mild, okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's for behind closed doors with a partner. But to get the veterans out, I get satisfaction out of that. It warms my heart. It's like I'm doing another good deed for my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me feel good. Same way with this program here. You know, this is great. My dad did this years ago. I was going to do it in D.C. myself coming up in August, because that's where I'm going. But when I heard about this, I thought, I need to see if I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is great. You folks are to be commended, because you guys are what will get the word out that way. And I don't have no kids, never liked kids. I do now. I umpire. Okay, I love kids. But it's for the future generation to learn. It's not all blood and guts. It's not all about shooting. You'll hear a story from the old soldiers. You train for a war that you hope never happens. Like the Rangers and all these other units, they train for something that they hope they never happens. They shoot thousands of bullets. They hope that they never have to pull that gun in a war situation, like your law enforcement. If you talk to your law enforcement, they hope they never have to fire the weapon. If they don't have to fire that weapon in the whole time they're in, it's been a good career. And that's how the military, in my mind, was. I didn't want to go to war when the Gulf War started in August of '90, but I felt that I was good at my job, supply. My soldiers had what they needed, wheel and deal and hours, whatever, because it's not my comfort, because I always had a truck. I could always find something. But the guys in the front lines, the engineers, and so many others that don't have access to that, I'm good at that. I'm still good at it. I trade baseball cards. That's my big thing. And I like making people happy if I can. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I make them mad and kind of. But that's just the way it is.
Can't please everybody.
I can't please, but I try to. And
yeah.
I did the Quilts of Valor. I was excited by that. That's something I treasure very much. And a lot of veterans are not aware of that program.
Could you explain that to me, please?
Okay. I know some of that. I didn't know much about it when I got started. It's an organization that got started years ago by a woman. Her son came home from war, and I guess he was injured or something. I'm not sure. Excuse me for the detail. And she thought, what would be good? Well, she made a quilt. Well, then it just spread. And all these women are volunteers, and men. I'm sure there's men quilters. I can't sew my socks even. But they got together, and what they do is they'll come across veterans. I was up in North Muskegon, Russ's, that's the restaurant?
Yeah,
Russ's?
North Muskegon. Yep.
Me and a guy who lives around the corner, another veteran, we were just having lunch or something, and we started talking. And we're both wearing our hats. This hat is the only one I'll ever wear. I don't wear baseball hats very often. It's all because it's to honor my fellow veteran. And I talk loud in case you don't realize that. I left my hair in the home, aids at home, thank goodness. But she heard us talking about the military. Well, we left, and this woman, she's following us out in the parking lot. I thought, what does she want? Because you get kind of leery of all the phone calls and people asking you questions. And she said, well, are you guys veterans? And of course,
yeah.
We're both wearing hats and all this. She said, I got some questions for you. I said, okay. And she said, I'm part of the Quilts for Valor program in Muskegon there. And I've got her picture on my phone when they did the program in the end. She said, I want to do a quilt for you guys. And I said, okay, I've heard about the program. Tell me more. She said, I'm going to contact you, and I'm going to send you a letter about fill out basic information for us. That way they can put that on the quilt. Well, you always hear about, okay, the check's in the mail. When renters do theft, the check's in the mail kind of thing. Well, about a month later, didn't hear nothing. I thought, that was just a hoax. Well, another month later, she called me up, and I get that in the mail. She said, well, I see where you don't have your awards listed. I said, you won't. I don't want my awards listed. Because a typical quilt, if you look on the one that's in there that I have, you won't see my awards. You'll see my assignments, but you'll have a saying about my soldiers. I've stayed in contact since 1975 with one soldier of mine from every duty assignment. I call them up, and I'm not sure if you heard the program, Buddy Check?
No, I have not.
Okay. Well, and there's different names for different services, but it's veterans calling these veterans up every so often saying, how you doing? You've heard about the suicide rate amongst veterans.
Yeah.
22 / more, sometimes it varies. A lot of that, not all of it, mind you, but some of it can be prevented by you saying hi to a veteran. Like you're walking at Myers or whatever, and you see a veteran like me, just mind my own business. Thank you for your, or what, just acknowledgement. Well, you don't realize it, but you may have stopped me from committing suicide that day, just by recognizing me. That's why, like when you got family members who are homebound, the elderly and whatever, don't get out much. Just by calling them every so often, hey grandma, how you doing? Mind if I bring over an apple pie or whatever? Just their time.
Mhm.
It's just like when I do Santa Claus at like the nursing homes up in Hart, okay, Oceana Medical Facility plus Cherry Blossom, and and there's only a few veterans up there, but I have a niece, no cousin. She makes red and white blue Afghans. So I stopped there, and the veterans, all they want, they're just to talk, you know. And at Christmas time, me and my sister dress up. I'll show you some pictures later of Santa Claus and stuff, and my elf, just to have a couple minutes where their mind is not thinking that they're getting older, that they can't walk no more. And most of those people will never leave those facilities, okay? I did the nursing home in Norton Shores this past Christmas. You know, I call it big money, but nice facility over there by Home Depot and by Mona Lake. There's 75 people in that facility. Whew. I've never done 75 people, but a lot of them were veterans. And just taking the time to hand them a full-size candy cane, which I go through. I've been to Santa Claus School. It's up in Midland, Michigan. I go every couple of years because they change on how you do it and stuff. And just by seeing them, you hear the word Santa Claus. And I'm a big ho-ho-ho. My bell and my voice can carry from here to the parking lot because I'm loud and I'm proud Santa Claus. This is real. I hate to say it, this is real too.
You trained for the job, right?
I did the job,
Yeah.
okay? But just seeing those people, and you walk down the halls and they're hollering Santa because they hear the bell. They hear me going Merry Christmas, and I drag it out, okay? That's what's heartwarming, but at the same time, it tears the heart. Because you know those people will not leave that facility. You know they don't have no family, or seldom family.
And
okay?
you may be their only contact.
I may be their only contact,
Yeah.
or one-on-one, rather than being a nurse or a doctor or somebody that brings
Right.
them their meal. And I don't do it as much as I should. There's more I could do, okay? But that's how I spend Christmas every year now.
That's very
It's
cool.
like 5 hours between the two facilities. And I don't just visit veterans. Every person in that facility, whether it be visitor, staff, or regular patient, is going to get a candy cane from me. So that's my sister. And it's not the little candy cane, just the full
Big ones.
big ones, okay? I do that to give back. I don't ask for donations. I don't do none of this because I make enough money since I'm good with retirement, you know, disability checks and stuff like that, that if I can do that, like leaving here, I'm going to leave here feeling warm and fuzzy, okay? And I'll be texting people all day long, hey, I did this today, to encourage other veterans.
So, as I hear you, when some veterans get together, it's just kind of talk about the old days, you know, the time in the unit. For you, it's a responsibility to connect with these people and reach out to them.
Yes, I don't think I've ever been in a veterans group here in Muskegon, but a lot of veterans groups, okay? We're older. The Shelby American Legion, which is just down from the hospital, before I got there, I didn't know where they were because it wasn't on Facebook, it wasn't in a phone book. And I had to find out. Somebody said, well, it's around by the hospital somewhere. Well, don't you know where it's at? Never been. I'm talking with veterans the same way. Somewhere up there. I thought, this is no good. Well, it was an old building, and it didn't say when they were open, but it had a phone number. So I finally called. We're open one night a month with our meetings. We don't have visitors. We don't have alcohol. And I thought, okay, this is strange, because I belong to a legion in North Georgia, okay, where we got involved in the community. And it's all about giving back. Because us veterans, if we use the VA, which, you know, I think I seen a young veteran, I'm not sure in there, those guys don't take advantage of the programs, okay? I use the VA 99% of the time, okay? It's not a money deal, it's just a helping hand, okay? And for me to get the word out, because I'm good at talking and writing, I mean, I'll write all this time, okay? But veterans need that. And even more so, it's like during the Gulf War. People don't realize, us military, we know what we're doing. We're trained for months and months and years and for all this stuff, whether it be combat or language or whatever. And a lot of you folks, I'm just in generalizing, so pardon me for that, call us heroes. No, 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 not a hero. I did what I was trying to do. The true heroes are people like you doing this interview. You're the hero that's taking your time from whatever else you may have going on. Time with the grandkids since they're out of school or whatever. You folks are the true heroes. I had cookies sent to me during the Gulf War from schools I never heard of. And it was called Any Soldier Mail. You probably heard the term maybe, okay? And when you got those cookies, and there was just little color book drawings, thank you for this order. These people didn't know me, but they took the time out of their busy life to do that. Or mail a box with puzzles in, or whatever the case may be, okay? You guys are the heroes. So when you see the word in the dictionary that says heroes, it should be a saying like, the people that support the military, or whatever. I'm not sure how to say that. But you folks are the one, because you worry about your nieces and nephews who are serving in the service. It's like, okay, what are they doing? What are they doing? We know what we're doing. I was prepared for the first Gulf War. I was prepared the majority of the time I was in, okay? But you people back here in Muskegon, Michigan, and the guys that are in the Ukraine, because there's soldiers there, in Poland, and many places that you don't realize right now, they know what they're doing. They're trained for it. Mm-hmm. So, but you guys back home go, oh, what about Johnny, and have you heard? And now with cell phones, it's a bit different, because Johnny can, hey, Grandpa, I'm here. And Haiti, see?
Yeah.
I'm doing a selfie.
All right.
But for years that one didn't exist. You had the Morse code, I forget the term now. The radar starts where you'd call, the operators like from Korea would get an operator in California, and California would call your house in Muskegon.
Like a ham operator.
There you go, ham operator.
A ham operator, yeah.
And you're calling, hello, this is Darell, over. Well, then the operator in California would say, okay, Mrs. Hansen, this is what your son say, talk to him. And they'd be like a translator. But now, okay, I'm going to call Dad. I got me a satellite phone, and I'm in Afghanistan.
Right. You mentioned the Gulf War several times. Tell me about that. What was that like? And I can only imagine what a huge logistic, taking all these supplies from the States and putting it over there.
You heard General Sarsgaard.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, big guy.
Norman.
Stormin' Norman. Well, he was based in Florida for a number of years. That was the so-called Central Command order. So he had planned for that scenario, per se. And all his training, he was ready to do a Desert Storm kind of operation. So we got alerted, and I still remember dates. I don't remember my own name sometimes.
Welcome to the club.
Let me check here. Okay, let me check my name tag. That was a good thing about the Army. You always knew, I'm Hansen.
Yeah.
But he had us, we got alerted August 7th of 1990. Well, we were due for an inspection, so nobody thought about war stuff. We thought inspection. Well, the military back then we was always on a budget. You can't spend so much. And I controlled our unit's budget, per se. Well, they said, buy this, spend money. Well, you get concerned when they never tell you to stop. So you think, okay, what am I going to do for the war? Well, my guys need shelter, so plywood. They need fuel, propane. They need a lantern. Stuff that when the government says spend money, you're going, I can really buy this stuff for the guys. Okay, it's like we didn't have the proper uniform. If you look in some of my pictures, we didn't have the desert brown stuff all the way. We had a mixture, per se, the browns, the green fatigues kind of stuff. But they never told us to stop spending money. Well, finally, in the end of August, we got alerted saying, hey guys, we're actually going to go. So all of us NCOs, we got pagers assigned to us. So we couldn't leave the area unless we had our pager. That way they could call you and, such and such. And when we actually flew out August 27th of 1990, we flew into Amsterdam, then we flew into, I forget the name in Saudi Arabia. When they lowered the gates of the plane, it was like 110. And it's a dry heat though. If you ever want to get an idea on how the desert is, and I don't have much hair either. Mm-hmm. I got a little bit more than you, but I'm scared to shave because they'll stay away. take your head and put it in a oven, or take a hair dryer that you have, or what do they call those things that, when you do beauty
Yeah,
salon?
sure.
I do that every year because I get my beard and hair dyed. And you feel the heat, and it's a dry heat. That's how it is in the desert. It was 146 degrees one day when I was a contractor in Kuwait, back in 2004. Dry heat. That's the only day I've ever had issues where I couldn't handle it.
Mhm.
So you get off the plane, you're going, and Georgia's humidity. Savannah, you're sweating at this time in the morning. Okay, already down there. When you get ready at 5:30 in the morning, you're sweating. Where Saudi and those areas, it's a dry heat, completely dry. And you're sucking air and you're drinking water. Well, they don't have ice. You're drinking water just like this because you need it.
Right. And I gotta believe water is a huge need over, I mean, to get all that water together, because they
Yes,
don't have
and they
that much.
had, most places, they have systems where you can filterize it.
Mhm.
If you look at the old Army pictures, I'm saying old, and I am now, you had a trailer, they call them water buffaloes. It's a big tank on wheels,
Mhm.
and that's what you put water in from the nearest water source. But then you had to put water purification stuff in it, like you do with your hunters or campers. They have certain little deals.
Yeah.
Okay, but we did it with gallon jugs and stuff. But you never got the water cold. But soldiers, if you want to figure out something, have a soldier come up with it. Well, you take this bottle, and we had quart bottles. You take a wool sock, okay, like a hunting sock. Us Army guys had green sock. You put the water bottle inside that sock. Then you wet the bottle, and you drive down the road. That temperature change, per se, will cool that water 3 or 4 degrees. And for us, that difference was, we got cold water. And you made that with kinds of situations. Or you take a poncho, and you know what a poncho is,
Mhm.
and I'm not a survivalist, mind you, okay? But you put that over like sandbags, and you kind of have it shaped where it goes low in the middle. Well, if you wake up next morning with the condensing of the temperature, you're gonna have fresh water.
So it's like your little all MacGyvers.
Yes, there you go.
There you go.
I mean, it's just like the saying about you having duct tape and cord or whatever. You can do anything.
Right, right.
And I still have a roll of duct tape in my house.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been 20 years since I retired. 20 years this year.
Wow.
96. 30 years.
Yeah,
30 years
30
this
years. Hard to believe, isn't it?
It is. But, even now when I travel, I go to military bases. If I haven't been, I travel. Like I'll be in Washington in August. I want to do Arlington. And there's other military bases around there. I just want to see what they look like. When I go down south someplace, if I haven't been to a place, I'll go there. Whether it be Army, National Guard. Grayling, north there, has the National Guard base. I go up there for training every year for the American Legion. I'll always go on the base just to see.
Is it a problem getting on the base?
Sometimes military related, no, not overly hard.
Uh,
But for a while when they had all the security stuff,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay. You know what I noticed, Darell, on your intake sheet here, you got some Army accommodations.
Yeah,
And I know you don't like to brag about that or anything, but I'd be really interested to know a little bit about that.
well, okay. I'll blow my own horn.
Yeah,
Remember
good.
the old term?
You're on camera, you might as well blow your horn, right?
Hey, I'm glad it's on video. But, okay. I'm good at what I do, or I was good once.
Mhm.
Like to Toby Keith, I'm good once, as I ever was once. But in supply, I took it as my mission, per se, is to support the soldiers. So that's how I got those awards, by making sure that they had everything they needed, by meeting the standards. And too many of us, whether it be civilian, and I used to not like that word, okay, because civilian in the military is like, ooh, you worked at Burger King or whatever, okay? But civilians, you have to set your standards. In other words, if you don't set your standards, or say you meet the standard, say the rule book says 1, 2, 3. Well, if you do it the way you should, it should be 1, 2, 3, 4. You should always exceed. Don't meet your standards. Like tell me that here's the standard. That's fine. I'm not gonna do that. This is where I get in trouble. I'm gonna exceed those standards. My soldiers the same way. So, I mean, but I got it for making sure my soldiers were taken care of. And whether it be the Gulf War or the Ranger camp in Dahlonega, which is the second phase of Ranger School, you had to do what's best for them. I never looked at a job as being 8 to 5, especially the Army. Because a lot of times you did 70 hours a week, or if you was deployed, you did
Yeah,
24/7.
they need you. They need those supplies.
You know, there was no time clock. I fed soldiers. And a lot of times it was in a green metal container. Not sure if you've ever seen it, but anyway, the cooks. And the soldiers run on their stomach. I mean, if they're not eating good, they're not going to be motivated.
Right.
Okay? So you got to do that. You got to make sure that they have the simple things. You know, and since I was supply, I was always on the road, so I could take them and make a phone call when I was in the Gulf War, because I had a truck, and I'd have guys, Sir Hansen, I'll be your driver for the day. Well, they knew they could make a phone call if they was with me, and making that phone call to mom and dad or the girlfriend back home. So that's how I motivate, and that's how I got those awards.
Okay.
But it's all my soldiers. I mean, like you heard in there, I still stay in contact with like 8 or 9 on a regular basis. And 2 of them in particular, which I got their pictures and stuff, they came from broken homes. And both of them, one came from South Georgia, southwest Georgia. Black kid, cotton fields, the whole, what you see about the South. Well, he came to me and he says, I only wore shoes in school, couldn't wear them because his family was being poor, single parent. And I said, okay, Travis James. I still remember that. I just talked to him not too long ago. I said, this is how I am. And I'm hard. I mean, this is where the bad side, you might say, comes out. I said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to get you some education. But Sir Hansen, I'm too stupid. No, you're not. What subject do you like in school? Well, I like history or whatever. Okay? Well, let's get you a history class. Boom, he found out he could do it. As of a month ago when I talked to him, he owns his own business just out in D.C. He's got his master's degree. His daughter got her degree. You know, just all that stuff. And he considered me like his father. He's a black guy. He's a black kid. It's not about the color. You know, to you, when I look at you, you're a person. You're not a white person with no hair. You're not a blonde-haired woman. You know, you're a person. And my father was that way. When he died, he worked for the phone company. One of the guys that was at his funeral, and pardon me for saying this, gotta be politically correct, his nigger showed up. It was his best friend that worked with him at the phone company. That's what my dad called him. And the black guy called him my doggone cracker, or my whitey, or whatever the term would be. They were best friends. That guy came to my house on a regular basis to have supper with my folk. He made a point to go up to New Era to be at my dad's funeral. And he took it as hard as the rest of the family did, because that was Ernie, my best friend. He didn't look at colors. He looked at the person. And my father was that way, and I try to be that way.
And so as I'm hearing you, a person who's in your unit isn't just somebody who does a job. There's somebody who you can guide and mentor for future life.
Even now, I try to do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I do Little League. I don't. And I don't behind the plate. This year I can't because of the heart surgery. But I tell the catchers all the time, I have 2 rules. And at first, when they don't know me, they're going to go, what's he saying? I said, we're going to have fun, and we're not going to get hurt. I said, that's only 2 rules I have for you while you're here, you know, in front of me. I said, after that, it's all good. So I would test them. If I umped another game with the same catcher, I said, what's my rule? Be safe and have a good time. And that's how I am. I was in the hospital at Trinity for my surgery, and I was upset because I couldn't take veterans to medical points. Well, come to find out, one of my nurses in ICU was ex-Navy, a submariner. I thought, hey, I can do my job. So I gave him my business card. I said, hey, if you're having trouble with the VA, you know. And then I looked back, I thought, this is why the Lord sent me to the hospital, to help out a veteran. Mm-hmm. Surgery, don't have no issue with. No pain, nothing, just the recovery sucks. But, and I'm tooting my own horn, I don't mind, I'm sorry.
We encourage that.
But it's just, when I can do that, I'm following my dad's steps. I'm following my sister. My sister is my best friend. She was my caretaker for a while. She's been the biggest supporter of me through my whole time in the service beside my dad. My niece was a fancy EMT person in Minnesota. She drove 4 times over to Minnesota to see me when I started having these heart issues. Those are my heroes. You know, those are the people that they do stuff for people and they don't need the recognition. It's like when you go to church. I'm not the most religious. I believe in the Lord and I talk to him. But you don't got to sit in the front row to believe in the Lord. I sit in the back row. Okay? I like to listen to the sermon. I like the feeling and all this stuff. But you don't got to be up front to make a difference. Yes, I've been in the paper up in Oceana County. It's called the Echo. It's a small town. I've been in there numerous times for different things. It's all volunteer Santa and whatever you want to call this stuff. But if I can get one veteran to come, okay, like this program here. Like I said, today you guys are going to be on Facebook. Hey, you need to get involved in this kind of program. Because that way when your grandkids or whatever, old friends want to look you up and say, yeah, I remember Sergeant Hansen. Let me see what's going on. They know more about me, okay? Because it's not about what you do while you're here, it's your legacy. It's what people remember, okay? It's just like I don't want people to cry at my funeral. I want them to be smoking, joking, laughing, carrying on. I want them to talk about, yeah, Darell couldn't talk for just 2 minutes. Let me tell you a story. I want that at my funeral, okay? Because I've had a good life. This heart surgery, it scared me. I'm not gonna lie. My will was already updated and all that stuff. But I thought, me and the Lord had to talk. Like, okay, is it time? You can't dictate that. But if it was time to me to go on the table, and they were on there like 9, 10 hours, because they had to do some other work, okay, I was good. I made my peace with the Lord, made my peace with my family, you know. But, you know, it's about giving back. It's not about what you take in. You know, now with my heart, you know, I can take a lot in.
Yeah. You know, as I listen to you, there's a quote that comes to mind. What we do for ourselves dies with us. What we do for others is immortal.
Yes.
And
correct.
That's you. That's your legacy.
But it's just so much fun. It's like, okay, I can't umpire this year. Well, Saturday I'll be in Whitehall at the opening day ceremony. I want to be there watching the kids. Sunday I'll be in Reese Puffer doing an umpire thing. I can't dress up, even though my stuff is at home. But if it helps the kids, and yes, it's good money doing it. If you know where Softball World is,
I
out
do
there, okay. Well, there's a big sports complex out there in Apple, past the Ford place,
Okay.
past the VA, right there in Oak Ridge area. They have numerous fields. You make good money. I've owned Parcel Park over here by the old Orchardville Elementary deal. But the money is not important. It's watching those kids have a good time.
Yeah.
You know, and sports have gotten so much money-wise. I mean, you have travel Little League teams that their uniform alone cost $100. They travel on luxury buses and.
It's a lot different than walking over to the park that you and I did.
Yes, like walking over to Court Road.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now that park is even worse than what it was back then. We had dugouts back in the day.
So when going back to your service a little bit here, when you were over there, away from home, and you reached, what meant the most to you to hear from from home, and what stood out?
Letters from my dad. Because he writes like me. No, my mom writes like me. My dad was always a writer, not a printer. I print. Okay, and I'm a bad printer. That's why I love typing on a computer and cell phone. Nobody's got to read to understand. They can just read it. But the support, and my dad is who I look for. I mean, and stuff from, it's not the physical stuff that you got, but the letters that you got. You know, somebody took the time to write you a letter. Now, I wrote a lot because the postage didn't cost them. All of our mail from the Gulf War stuff was free. You write a letter, put the address, drop it off. And I wrote a lot. I mean, I still write a lot. I mean, I've been working on a book for 20 years, which I'll never finish.
What's the book about?
About the Gulf, about my military time.
Uh-huh.
But I'll never finish it. I know I won't. But I write poems too. But the poems are because it comes from the heart. I don't put words down just to make it sound good. Okay? It's just like music. I listen from the 50s music all the way up to now. Rock and roll, country, rap, Snoop Dogg and all these people. I mean, but that's who I am. I'm a combination. It's like America. We're a big mixture. Like Ronald Reagan, okay, said not too long, one of his speeches was, if you go to Japan, I can never be Japanese. If I go to Germany, I can never be a German. But if you come to America, from wherever you come from, you'll be called American. And, ooh, now I'm touching up.
That's an interesting, I like that quote.
But between that and my dad, you know, he never asked for nothing from the military after his time. He wasn't expecting VA claim. He did it because they called. And I said, well, what about the German stuff? They had a reason too. He never hated the Germans, even though he was starved and all this other stuff. General Patton's army freed his POW camp. A lot of the prisoners that could walk, they got shot. My dad had yellow jaundice and he was down to like 110 pounds. And he was a big guy, 180, 190. And they left him because he had yellow jaundice. The Germans wouldn't waste a bullet on him. And yet, even now, or even when my dad passed, that's just what they had to do. You know, so, and that's how I look at it. I mean, I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, I'm just like with you and me. You got to look at when you vote for, say, what's best for the older folks, or what's good for your grandkids. We all got our own deal. Do I agree with everything that the veterans people do? No. I get along with some I don't get along with. It's not about you. It's got to be about opening the door for you. If that makes you smile by me opening that door for you, you've made my day. If I doggone help you with that device there, and you say thank you, you paid for it already, because I did something nice. And if we could all pay it forward, especially us veterans, because we have so much to be grateful for. Now, I don't get medical bills in the mail, because between the VA and whatever, that stuff is taken care of. So it's my obligation almost, but more important, it's my honor to give back. I get thrills out of that. I came down here yesterday looking for this place.
You're so excited to be here, right?
So I called Don Cook. I said, ma'am, where's this supposed to be? You said at the college, and I'm over here at Baker, next to the veterans deal across the street. And they were closed this week. So I called her. I said, ma'am, you said to be down here, and I'm down here a day ahead early, but where is it? Well, Darell, it's over by the college, but I'm not really sure. It's MCC. So then I left my house early, got over to where she thought she would be, and I called her up, and she said, Darell, are you in a blue truck? And she'd waved me down. I said, am I in the right place? No, Darell, you got to go down one more driveway. That's how I found the place, because you weren't very well publicized.
Right.
Okay? I seen two little signs, and I thought, okay, I'm here. I got to do this.
You know, you started out today talking about looking up to your dad.
Yes.
And as we've been talking through this interview, it's obvious to me that your dad was just more than somebody to look up to. He's been your guiding light throughout your life. Is that accurate?
Yes, because my dad was his own man. My dad, out of all his family, was never mechanically inclined. He was never a mechanic, never a Bob Vila, as we call it, whatever. My dad was a telephone repairman, okay? He was, when they had tunnels where the phone lines were ran, he did that. When he climbed the telephone poles in wintertime, when stuff broke, he did that. And he never complained. He missed work one time because he had hemorrhoids in Butterworth. Is it Butterworth?
Yeah, Butterworth. Yep.
Butterworth. He was there for a week or two. But other than that, my dad never missed work per se that I can remember. And you remember where the old phone company used to be out there on Sherman, the chemical place now or something?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, and here we live just down the road. Well, my dad would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. And us kids sleeping, you know. You'd hear him up. Well, fine, we'd get up and Pops, what are you doing? I'm getting ready to go to work. Well, you don't got to do work for another hour. I don't want to be late. And yet it's a 10-minute drive, whatever, not very far. My dad installed that in us kids. My sister's a nut. We'll go someplace and we'll be there 2 hours early. And I know where she gets it from. My dad. You know, and just the simple things. Like I told somebody in there the other day, or just a few minutes ago, if I'm hungry for a hamburger, I'm gonna get me a hamburger. When I leave here, if I'm hungry for a steak, guess what? I'm going for a steak. Because I can. And I want to. But right now, since I'm retired, like I believe you two folks are, okay, what am I gonna do? Well, I'm not sure yet, because I'm retired. I know where I'm gonna be tomorrow and Sunday, but if I can do something, me and my sister are still super close. She helped me get that wagon full of stuff, okay? But you gotta do this, because my dad never had a chance to take his stuff up to Washington. That's why that is.
Speaking of which, would you want to hold that up for the camera and just talk briefly about that? Because these are not your medals, they're
No.
your father's medals.
My medals will never be in a case.
Uh-huh.
Can you see that?
Yeah. You see that, Christine?
Yes.
Okay, no, the camera? Okay.
No.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But this is the medals that my father got during World War II. He was a POW, first day of the Battle of the Bulge. And I'm not sure of all the names of them, but they're his, not mine. And I keep this in my house. It's one of my displays.
It's a very cool display.
And this is, my sister did this. She's good at that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, his dog tags and some other stuff. Combat infantry badge, stuff like that. But this is my dad's, and this is in my house, and it'll be there forever.
Wow. You mentioned on your intake here that you were in Haiti.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the few souvenirs, you don't see it here. I have a baseball, like I told you.
Yeah.
All the baseballs.
And they were made in Haiti.
Yes, made. They used to be. Now they're made in Dominican Republic.
Uh-huh.
And I got sent down there during this operation. This is 1996, and it's the only place that you couldn't drink the water. You couldn't use the water for bathing, washing clothes, nothing. All that stuff had to be imported to us. And even now, I mean, it's just, they're still having issues, you know, with earthquakes and whatever, just civil unrest. And when you look at it, Haiti's less than 100 miles from the Florida coast. It's the closest country, like with Cuba, that is not us. And yet you think, how can they be so poor? The politics. You know, they still assassinate the politicians, and just so much of that stuff. You know, and you still got people going down there in meditation, you know, deals. And I just had my nephew's wife be in Haiti for a while. Not Haiti, yeah, Haiti. No, Cuba. She went down there to be a nurse for a while. And who would think that there's American nurses in the country of Cuba? And she was a nurse for a while down there. So they did a mission through the church or something, and a bunch of nurses served whoever needed help for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, and there's so many unknown heroes, you folks. That woman who was in here, I don't remember her name, she should interview you folks, not me. Because I'm doing what I like. What's the saying that if you ever do a job, if you have a job that you don't consider work, it's not work at all, or there's this, I mispronounce the words, but I've never really worked much of my life. It's a blessing. All this volunteer deal, it's not work, because you're learning stories from those guys across the way. I would love to sit in the corner back there and hear people like, oh, I didn't know that. And it's just, you know, and then I buy them lunch, or they try to buy me lunch. No, keep that in your pocket, you know, because they're the heroes. You guys are taking all this time, and I'm not sure how many days you guys have been doing this, not my concern. But for you to volunteer to do this, okay, hopefully you're getting money, but I'm not sure how much. Okay?
I'll let you know.
Let me know. Okay,
Yeah,
I got some MREs in my truck.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's just that there's so many unknown heroes or unpublicized heroes. It's like, remember it when ABC News a number of years ago they changed the program where they tried to do nothing but good news?
Yep.
Good news.
Nobody wanted to hear it.
They want people to talk about killings and, all this other stuff. And I know good news doesn't sell, but if each of us, like today, you guys have done your good deed. The Lord's looking down, smiling, hey, they're doing all right.
We all have our opportunities to do our good deeds. I think the biggest difference between us and you is you and your fellow veterans volunteered to put yourself in harm's way. And that's a huge difference.
Well, if you look at the contract that it used to be, and I haven't seen the new contract for the military, there's a sentence in there that you're willing to give your life.
Mm-hmm. We don't have that in our contract.
Oh, I don't think you do. Okay, I can quit. I'm done. I'm not going to interview no more veteran. I'm tired of their sob story. But I still have some of my contract because I re-enlisted over and over. Because not where you can walk in and, okay, I'm going to be here for 20 years. After so many years, you got to meet the qualifications again. Okay? It's just like one quick story. See? 6 hours yet? Nope. Anyway, I got out of the service back in 1979, in July. I left Korea with a Korean wife, and I was going to work with my dad at the phone company. That was my goal, father and son at General Telephone. And I had letters from other companies. Sergeant Hansen, come home, we'll find a job for you. Well, when I got off the plane in Muskegon in July of 79.
99?
79.
Oh, 79.
All these jobs dried up.
Okay.
This was during the Carter administration.
Yep.
No picking on him, because he was great for Habitat for Humanity, and he was a submariner himself and all this stuff. But those jobs dried up. Well, us men, we're macho, big shoulders, and I can do this. I'm not going to let a woman lift this and all this other stuff. I felt if I couldn't have a job, I shouldn't have a wife. Extreme, maybe, but that's how I felt. So after a while, I thought, no. So I got divorced. Nothing against that first wife. I wish I could find her today and just see how her life had turned out. But I gained weight. I was a big boy, even bigger than what I am now, okay? Well, the Army don't want big boys back. The Army wants little boys back, slender. You seem to be a slender gentleman, okay? And at the time, you had to be the exact pounds and ounces. I'm 5'9". I had to be 184 pounds and like 4 ounces. They had it figured down to the ounce. Well, I kept on going to Detroit because I wanted to go back, and it was time for me because my sister was getting divorced. I thought I needed help her. And that was just inbred. She had a niece and stuff like that, like I mentioned earlier. And I thought, I got to go back in. I've got to do something. Well, I started going on a popcorn diet. I love popcorn, but I made it extreme. 6 days a week, I lived on popcorn. I lived in a trailer just west of Shelby, off Shelby Road. I'm not sure how often you go up that way, but just north of New Orleans. I lived in a trailer, single wide, and I was over 300 pounds. I was a big boy. Mm-hmm. And the Army kept on telling me, this is what you got to weigh. And I thought, okay. So I started basically being stupid. Just because you're in your 30s or 40s does not mean you're smart. Well, I finally got down to, I thought I was close. Well, I took the Greyhound. That's when the Greyhound came to Muskegon. I'm not sure if it still does. Got on the bus and I said, this is my last trip. And this is after 4 or 5 trips to Detroit, downtown. And I thought, I'm going to make it this time. Well, again, being older doesn't make you smarter. I took a large box of X-Lax. You know what X-Lax is?
Yep.
Not the good stuff. I mean, candy looks good, but anyway, so I took that, ate the whole box on the bus. Well, I sat in the back of the bus, thank goodness, because I used the facilities. Well, then I got to my hotel room, because the military pays for your hotel when you're trying to go in. Well, I got there, and I thought, I don't think I'm there yet. So I locked myself in the bathroom. I made my own little steam room. I did that off and on all night long. Well, I got to AFES, which is the processing center, and I got weighed in. They said, well, Mr. Hansen, you're 2 ounces or 3 ounces over. What you gonna do? And they were particular. Hansen says they were not going to give up on it. And I said, how long are you guys here for? We're here for till 3 o'clock or whatever. Well, you know Detroit's a big city block. I mean, their blocks are not like
Right.
here in Muskegon. I thought, I'll be back. So I went downstairs, went out, and I started walking around the block of Detroit AFIS. Well, finally, when I knew it was getting close to time, I thought, let me go back. Got up there, I made the wait. He said, what you gonna do? I said, I'm on sign paperwork. He said, when you wanna go? I said, how soon can I go? A week later, I was on a plane to Columbus, Georgia. So, I mean, but I helped my sister out. And that's what it's all about. And don't make me to be a glory child. Let me be in the back of the bus, per se. Let me be back of the church.
You're a worker.
I'm not gonna say that because I'm lazy at times.
Yeah, but you want to be back behind the scenes doing what needs to be done.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I question people who do the talk. Like, there's a saying from Missouri, the show me state.
Mm-hmm.
Show me. Don't walk the walk unless you can do the talk.
Right.
So it's just like I didn't put out that I was going to do this today. I didn't tell nobody except for Don's father and a couple other people. Now, when I get back, like I said, I'm going to tell them about this program. I'm going to tell them how easy it was, how willing you guys are to listen, that they can talk.
Being older, you have the luxury of looking back. How would you say your years in the service affected your future life?
Well, you hear, and I'm not sure if you do or not, I'm not a cusser. I'm not a swear person, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But too many people, even now, I'm not a cusser. But when you hear military folks, especially a young one, you hear the words, son of a this and mother this and all that. And I never got into that. Well, people finally started asking me, well, why don't you do that? The Army taught you that. Army didn't teach me that. My upbringing between my folks taught me that. My father and my mother, they were not a cousin. You didn't hear all these other words. I mean, the hardest word you heard was damn or shit. You never heard none of these other words. So it's my upbringing that did, and the military pushed me to get out of my shell. Some people wish I was still in my shell. But the military got me to where I want to help. Okay? And it hasn't stopped. This heart business has slowed me down. I'm getting frustrated when I can't do what I want to do. But the whole healthcare system in Muskegon, Trinity Health, and I'm not sure how much you ever dealt with, from the people that cleaned my room to the physical therapy I just got done, top notch. And it's not because I'm a veteran, it's because I was a person to them. They cared. It wasn't Sergeant Hansen, it was Darell. Darell, how can we help you? Are you tired or whatever? And that's what same way like with veterans. I have no issues with the Marines or whatever, but I crack on them because I can do that because I'm a veteran like them. But I encourage people to get out there. Get outside your comfort zone. Don't remember the horses used to wear the blinders where they were just concentrated on plowing that field?
Yep.
Take those off and get out there. Get out of your comfort zone.
And that dovetails a little bit to my last question is what the millions of people that are going to watch this interview.
Yeah, right.
What would you like to leave with them? What message of anything would you like them to take away from this interview?
When people complain about the U.S., and I don't agree with everything that the U.S. does, whether it be the president or mayor of Muskegon or whatever, you go overseas, whether it be Haiti, Germany, whatever country you want to go to, okay? You don't have the same kind of rights that we have in the States. I could go right now and burn that flag, the U.S. flag. People are going to look at me and kind of frown, but there's no law against burning the flag. So when these people say about how bad the U.S. is, okay, well, our prisoners in jail are getting fed 3 meals a day. You go to Korea, you go to Haiti, whatever, you go